The sound of gunfire still echoed in Fatima's mind. Even though it has been over 2 years since that night, she could still feel the terror in her chest, the ground shaking beneath her feet as the insurgents stormed her village. They came in like a flood, sweeping away everything she had ever known, her beautiful family and comfortable home. Now, as she stood in the crowded streets of Maiduguri, her hands trembling, the bustling noise of the market was no less overwhelming than the silence that followed the massacre of her family. She adjusted the faded scarf on her head, trying to hide her haunted eyes from the war. Life had moved on somehow, while she had been left behind in the wreckage of memory. The Boko Haram insurgency had stolen her family, her childhood, her dreams, leaving her with nothing but the bitter sting of survival. But survival was not enough, not anymore. As she clutched the frayed naira notes in her hand, Fatima realized that simply waking up each morning, putting one foot in front of the other, was no longer enough to call it living. In a country now crippled by an economic crisis, she had to find a way to live, to rebuild, if that was even possible. The same Nigeria that once promised her hope now seemed determined to crush her beneath her weight. "You must keep going," her mother's voice whispered in her mind, soft but firm, the only remnant of her past that still felt alive. "You must survive." But how? How could anyone survive in a world so broken, where the prices of foods keep skyrocketing, where the cost of living is pressing the living, insecurity is rampant? The market was crowded as usual, filled with weary faces, pushing and shoving for the smallest chance at a bargain. Fatima maneuvered through the chaos, the weight of her own hunger pressing on her like a stone. She approached a vendor, eyeing the few loaves of bread on display. "How much for one?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The woman behind the store gave her a hard look, her expression as tired and worn out as the bread itself. 500 naira. "No credit today," she said without even a hint of sympathy. Fatima's heart sank. She only had 300 naira. "Please, can I get it for less? I don't have enough. I only have 300 naira." The woman frowned but didn't budge. "Everybody dey suffer, my sister. Everybody dey suffer. I no fit sell am below that price wey I tell you. No be my fault." Fatima bit her lip, trying to hold back the tears. It wasn't just the bread, it was everything. The weight of the past, the uncertainty of the future, the never-ending struggle of the present. It was all too much. "Abeg, madam," Fatima tried again, her voice cracking. I just need something to eat. I will pay you back when I can." The vendor's face softened, just slightly, but she shook her head. "No be my fault oh, my sister, but I fit give you small credit. No be say I get plenty oh, but I sabi say things dey hard true true." Fatima nodded, too tired to argue, and handed over her last few naira. The woman handed her half a loaf of bread, and Fatima clutched it tightly as if it were her last lifeline. In some ways, it was. As she walked away, her heart heavy, she couldn't help but wonder, is this really what my life has become? Within a twinkle of an eye, begging for bread? She thought of her father, strong and proud, always telling her that she could be anything she wanted. "Fatima, you will be a great nurse one day. You will help so many people. Your life will be filled with purpose." His words echoed in her mind like a distant dream, one that felt so far from the reality she now faced. The insurgency had stolen that dream and in its place left her with a hollow existence. But Fatima wasn't ready to give up, not yet. 2 years later, in the heart of Maiduguri, Fatima had found a new rhythm. She had secured a small job at a local NGO that helped displaced families. It wasn't much, but it gave her a sense of purpose, a way to help others who had lost as much as she had. In the faces of the children who came to the NGO, she saw pieces of herself, fragments of hope, struggling to survive in a harsh world. Yet, even in this new chapter, life was far from easy. The economy had worsened. Transportation is now a luxury due to hike in fuel price. Most time, her means of transportation were her fragile legs. Jobs were scarce. But Fatima, though weathered by the storms of her past, was learning how to fight. It was at the NGO that she met Femi. At first, Fatima had kept her distance, her walls up high. She couldn't afford to let anyone in, not after everything she had been through. But Femi was different. He was kind, patient, and seemed to understand her pain in a way no one else did. They often worked late together, organizing supplies and making sure the displaced families were cared for. And as time went on, Fatima found herself drawn to him, despite her best efforts to keep her heart closed. But with the new sense of connection came a deep inner conflict. Could she open herself to someone after all the betrayals and trials she had faced? One evening, as they sat under the baobab tree outside the NGO, Femi turned to her. "You've been quiet lately," he said softly. Fatima glanced at him, then looked away. "I'm just thinking," she replied, her voice tight. "About what?" "About life, about everything," she said with a sigh. "It's all so much sometimes. I don't know if I can handle it any longer." Femi nodded, understanding in his eyes. "You don't have to handle it alone, Fatima. You don't always have to carry everything by yourself." His words hit her like a wave, but she pushed back against the comfort they offered. "I've been on my own for so long, Femi. I don't know if I can trust anyone anymore." Femi reached out, gently taking her hand. "I'm not asking you to trust me right away. I'm just saying I'm here and I'm going nowhere." Just when Fatima could breathe again, she got suspended from her job. She was accused of stealing funds and supplies meant for the displaced families. Fatima's world came crashing down once more. The walls of distrust she had worked on so hard to break down came rushing back. Stronger than ever, she felt lost again, standing at the edge of a cliff, unsure whether to leap or fall. But this time, Fatima wasn't alone. Femi came to her rescue, consoled her to believe in herself and never give up. For the fact that she did not do it, she should stand for her rights. She should keep herself alive to clear her name by all means, because quitters are never winners. With Femi's support and her own unwavering determination, she fought back to clear her name with evidence. She exposed the true thief. The NGO reinstated her, and also she was promoted with a better pay. For the first time, Fatima had a sense of victory, not just for surviving, but for fighting, for standing up for herself. In the end, she realized that life would always be a struggle. There would always be hard times. There would always be pains. But there would also be hope, love, and light at the end of the tunnel if only you do not quit.